If you could have anything in the world, anything at all, would you destroy that one person who loves you most?
Sister, please forgive me.
That sound was not an animal from the jungle. That sound was a girl. A girl who had done nothing wrong except be beautiful, kind, and loved by the wrong man. Stay with me, because this story is going to take you somewhere you have never been before. And I promise you, by the time we reach the end, you will never look at jealousy the same way again. In a kingdom nestled between two great rivers, where the mango trees bloomed twice a year, and the women were known across the land for their grace, there lived two sisters, Amara and Zola. Now, let me paint you a picture. Amara was the elder, tall, sharp-eyed, with skin like polished mahogany and a tongue as quick as lightning. She was brilliant, calculated, the kind of woman who walked into a room and immediately understood every person in it. She had studied the ancient arts, the herbs, the rituals, the old languages that most people had long forgotten. Some called it wisdom, others called it something else. Zola was younger by 2 years. Where Amara was sharp, Zola was soft. Where Amara was fire, Zola was water. She had the kind of laugh that made strangers smile without knowing why. She sang while she cooked, she danced in the rain. She cried at the sight of wounded birds and nursed them back to health with her bare hands. They were different in almost every way, but they loved each other deeply, completely. Or so Zola believed. Their mother had died when Zola was only 7, and it was Amara, 10 years old, barely more than a child herself, who held her little sister through the night, whispering, "I will never leave you. You hear me? Never." Zola never forgot those words. She carried them like a jewel close to her chest. She would need them soon, but not in the way she expected. His name was Kofi, Prince Kofi of the Northern Territory. Young, wise beyond his years, with a laugh that rumbled like distant thunder and eyes that seemed to hold genuine kindness in them. He was not the kind of prince who sat on cushions and gave orders. He rode with his people. He listened. He was the kind of man that made you believe good men still existed in a world that kept proving otherwise. He came to the village during the festival of first harvest. Every family opened their doors. Every young woman dressed in her finest. Every mother quietly whispered prayers. And then he saw Zola. She wasn't even trying to impress anyone. She was crouched by the river, helping an old woman carry a heavy pot of water, laughing at something the old woman had said, completely unaware that a prince was watching her. Kofi stopped walking. His advisor nudged him. He didn't move. He just watched her. And something in his chest shifted like tectonic plates, rearranging themselves. He introduced himself that evening. Zola was flustered, sweet, completely herself. She did not perform for him. She did not pretend. And that realness is what undid him completely. Within a week, he had visited their home 3 times. Within 2 weeks, he had spoken to the village elders. He wanted Zola as his bride. Zola was overwhelmed, grateful, terrified, and slowly, quietly falling. But across the room, during every single one of those visits, sat Amara, watching, smiling, with eyes that did not smile back. Here's what nobody tells you about jealousy. It does not arrive wearing a villain's cloak. It does not announce itself. It comes quietly, dressed like love, dressed like concern. Amara had seen Kofi first. The morning he arrived in the village, she had been at the market and he had passed by on horseback, and for one single moment their eyes had met. She had felt something electric move through her. She had gone home that night and thought about him. She had hoped. But then the festival came and he saw Zola. And everything Amara had quietly built in her imagination, the future, the palace, the life, crumbled before it ever had a chance to stand. And she smiled through it every single day. She helped Zola pick out fabrics. She braided Zola's hair. She told her, "You deserve this, you really do." But at night, alone in the darkness, something ancient and terrible was waking up inside of her. She began to visit the old shrine at the edge of the forest, the one their mother had warned them never to approach. She told herself she was just curious. She was lying to herself.
3 days before the wedding, Zola disappeared. Not slowly, not mysteriously. She was simply gone. And in her place, tied to the post at the edge of the compound, was a lioness, young, confused, with eyes that were far too human, filled with fear and something that looked terrifyingly like recognition. The village erupted into chaos. Kofi was devastated, frantic. He sent search parties in every direction. And Amara wept the loudest. She tore at her clothes. She called her sister's name to the sky. She was a masterful performer. But there was one thing she had not counted on. The old woman, the one Zola had helped carry water the day she met Kofi. She had seen Amara going to the shrine. She had watched. She had said nothing, because wisdom knows when to wait. She walked to the lioness, slowly, with a calabash of water and a bundle of leaves she had prepared in silence for 2 days. The entire village watched as she knelt before the animal. The lioness went still. The old woman began to speak in a language that made the air feel thicker. Old words, older than the village, older than the kingdom, older than anyone there could remember. And then she looked up, straight at Amara. "Come forward," she said quietly, "and undo what you have done." Amara did not move. "I don't know what you..." "Child," the old woman's voice did not rise. It did not need to. The forest remembers everyone who enters it, and what you called up 3 nights ago left footprints that only a fool would ignore. The village turned toward Amara. Kofi turned toward Amara, and in that moment the lioness made a sound, not a roar, a cry, the kind of sound that breaks open something in your chest, a sound that said, "I know you. Why did you do this to me?" Amara's knees buckled, because no matter how dark a place jealousy takes you, there is a moment when you come face to face with what you have actually done, and it is not abstract anymore. It is not a fantasy. It is your sister, imprisoned in a body that is not hers, looking at you with eyes full of pain, and God help you, still full of love. She fell to the ground, weeping, real tears this time. "I'm sorry, Zola. I am so sorry." The reversal took until sunrise. It was not painless. It was not clean. But when it was done, Zola stood in the early morning light, human, trembling, wrapped in cloth, with tears streaming down her face. Kofi crossed the compound in seconds and held her like a man who had been given back something he didn't deserve but would never take for granted again. And Zola? Zola looked across the compound at her sister, crumpled, broken, surrounded by the judgment of an entire village, and she did the one thing nobody expected. She walked to her, and she held her. People ask, how? How do you hold someone who turned you into a lion? But here is what I have learned from this story, and here is what I want you to carry with you today. Jealousy is a prison that punishes the jailer more than the prisoner. Amara spent years building resentment in the dark, and it hollowed her out until there was nothing left but that one terrible act. She destroyed herself before she touched her sister. And Zola's grace, her willingness to choose love over bitterness, that
was the most powerful thing in that entire kingdom. Amara was exiled for a season, not forever, long enough to face herself. She came back different, quieter, like someone who had walked through fire and understood, finally, what fire costs. Zola and Kofi were married in the spring, and on the day of the wedding, standing at the back of the celebration, watching, not participating, earning her way back slowly, was Amara, smiling, with eyes that this time smiled too. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Because somewhere out there, someone is standing at the edge of that shrine, talking themselves into a decision they cannot undo. Maybe this story will stop them. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.